Before we get into today's episode, this one is brought to you by Flowdesk, the email marketing platform I use to run my own newsletter at Line Creatives. If you've been putting off starting an email list or you're on a platform that just isn't working for you, Flowdesk is worth a look. The templates are beautiful, it's easy to use, and it's built for small business owners. Get 25% off your first year at flowdesk.com/c/Line Creatives, but I'll make sure to drop the link in the show notes.
It's okay to be passionate about things that are self-serving, and it's also okay to grieve who you were before this idea came along or this life transition happened. And when you do those things, I find that the creativity comes in a way that you didn't expect.
Welcome to This Might Get Creative, a Behind the Brand podcast by Line Creatives. I'm Svenja Line, and in each episode, I sit down with local business owners and entrepreneurs to share their stories, how they got started, what keeps them going, and what makes their business stand out. My goal? To help more amazing businesses be seen, supported, and celebrated. So grab your coffee, because this might just get creative. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to This Might Get Creative, Behind the Brand podcast. And today's guest found her creativity in the middle of a hard time. She started writing, and she was really good at it, good enough to win an award and have agents asking for more. But going through all of that taught her something she didn't expect. Writing actually wasn't her thing. Well, her path, it was her thing, but not her final path. And what she was really good at was something else. Caroline Benefield is the founder of Southern Grid Digital, a digital marketing consultant for women-led businesses and a self-described testing nerd who once pulled a $4,000 return out of a $300 ad spend. Caroline, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm very excited as well. When we had our call, our pre-call, it was super fun. We had so many things to talk about, and it was kind of hard to pull out the one topic that I want to talk about. Yeah. But I think your whole journey of where you came from, and we go a little bit deeper, so I'm not giving anything away, but from what you started with, and then what you had to go through, and what happened, and then where you ended. I think that's a really cool story, and I think a lot of people resonate with these, developments, because they go through those changes as well.
Yeah.
So. And but I was very impressed about your book, and so you wrote multiple books. It was a series, I believe, right?
It was.
And you won awards for this.
I did.
And you had agents wanting more. So tell me more about that. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So when you asked me when I was a little girl, if you'd asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, the answer was an author. I was an avid reader. I still am. I actually just buddy read A Wrinkle in Time, which is my favorite book of all time, with my 11-year-old stepdaughter. And she loved it too, which was just like the highlight of the last few months for me. I reread it at least once a year, but I was always writing stories. I mean, I found old journals, and to be clear, the stories were awful. I was, 10 years old trying to write about like great fantasy love stories, and I'd never, held hands with a boy. When I was 35, so a few years ago, I don't necessarily want to say how many years ago, but in 2023, I had hit a point of real burnout, career-wise and personal life-wise. Some really good things happened, some really bad things happened, and I will dive more into those later, but I describe it as living a decade of life in 18 months. And so I started going to therapy to try to deal with all of that. And when I started therapy, my therapist told me that creativity is a great outlet for getting through grief, through getting through burnout. It activates the ventral vagal part of the nervous system, and I was all the way in shut down. So I started writing this story. The title came to me first. It's A Hex on Honeysuckle Lane. I've always been really interested in magical romances, magical cozy fantasies. I was very excited when cozy fantasy became its own full-on brand. So it's set in a small Georgia town and up in the mountains, and the story just poured out of me. I think I wrote the first draft in like 5 weeks.
Wow, that's crazy.
The story just came out of me so quickly, and I had the idea of, okay, like maybe I'll independently publish this, and if no one reads it, that's okay. I can say that I've published a book. That's so fun. But my husband's best friend's wife, who is now one of my very good friends, her husband actually performed our wedding ceremony for us, but she is an incredibly talented author. We were talking top 10 to USA Today best-selling author. And she and I were talking, and she was like, just come to this conference with me. I want to have a friend there. You know, you're taking some time off work right now. Come to this conference, go meet some other people. It'll be fun. And they had ahead of time that you could submit your writing to agents. And so I did, and I got fantastic feedback. I won best manuscript from the agent submissions at that conference.
Wow.
And had several indie presses and some agents asking me for full drafts. And so I decided, okay, I'm gonna try to do this whole thing. I'm gonna write this whole series. I have like 3 other couples that I want to explore their relationships. So I wrote a series where every pairing has at least one queer character in it, because I didn't see a lot of that in the world. And yeah, I wrote about found family, complicated family dynamics, all within this like very safe, cozy environment. And that was really healing for me at the time. When I look at the page reads and the sales, I mean, thousands of people have read my books, which is incredible. I want to be clear, I never hit any bestseller lists, and that is fine. It was not lucrative, which is also fine. That wasn't the point. But what I realized through that is I love the act of writing and creating. I hated marketing my own stuff, which was wild because I've been in marketing communications for 15 years. I thought that was going to be the easy part of it. And it's very different when you're marketing your own vulnerable creativity, because this was very vulnerable for me. I remember part of my decade of life in 18 months is that both of my parents passed away during that time, which was why I was on leave from work. And I remember people being like, you have, not all the parents can be dead, Caroline. You have to write about the parents. But forcing myself to do that was very healing, because I was able to write about some of the complicated dynamics I had with my own parents. I was also able to write about, the parents that I wish mine had been able to be. And my parents tried very hard and were very, loving and supportive and all of that. But I was able to write through some of those things where, they made some missteps, like we all do as parents. Yeah. So it's very healing, but it's very vulnerable work. And marketing my own vulnerability was not enjoyable for me.
I can absolutely relate to that, because I like a couple of years ago, I love drawing and I love illustrating, and I think that's kind of a little bit the same thing, because I think I'm really good at it. However, I have a problem with even posting it anywhere. And I mean, I am in marketing. I am, I should be able to put it in a very cool, like Instagram post or whatever it is. But for some reason with the illustrations, it doesn't work.
Yeah. When we get so close to the project, I feel like it makes it so much easier to overthink everything and to second guess everything. And then it hurts so much more if something doesn't take off. And I had, my fair share of social media posts take off, and my fair share that got like 80 views because it's always a mixed bag. But those 80 view ones hurt so much more, even though I know it's part of the process. And it's like, well, why didn't people like this? Why don't they like my work? Why don't they like this quote from the book? So when I wrapped up the series, I was like, okay, I think it's time to find the next thing. I've achieved this dream of publishing a series of books. They were well received. They have great reviews. The first one has won an award. That's more than I ever dreamed would happen with writing a book. Yeah. And also, I had to come to that realization that this wasn't the path I wanted to pursue for the rest of my career.
If you're a business owner and you've ever wondered why your brand isn't pulling its weight, I built something for you. It's called the Brand Audit Scorecard, and it's completely free. 10 questions, takes about 5 minutes, and it'll show you exactly where your brand is strong and where it's losing you clients. You can grab it at linecreatives.com/brand audit scorecard, and the link is in the show notes. All right, let's get back to it. So after you, so you went through this, and then you discovered that, okay, writing is good for your personal well-being, but maybe not to continue to monetize, let's put it this way. And then how did you find out what you were really good at, like what you really wanted to do?
Yeah, so my career up until I took some time to write was, I spent all of the 2010s in fundraising communications, in small nonprofits, large nonprofits, and then I led direct response marketing at a tier 1 research institution for 5 years. And as part of going to author conferences and signings and all of that, I started presenting to fellow authors on email marketing 101. So it was very focused on that author that has just maybe written their first book and they're like, I have a draft, now what? And they don't know how to build a website or an email list or any of the things that they would need to do if they want to sell the book. So I put together a course that's Email Marketing 101 that walks people through the basics of selecting a platform, setting things up in a way that's compliant, how to make sure that your emails are accessible and deliverable, how to do A/B testing, what is a DNS record, all of those fun things. And then people started coming to me and saying, can I just pay you to set all that up for me? And I said, sure. And by the time I had finished the book series, I had enough people who were asking me to consult that I was like, okay, I should spin this off into its own LLC. And I dove in and expanded it beyond the author. And I was working with a couple of abstract artists as well, but expanded it beyond the creative community. And now I work with service-based businesses mostly. I work with a few consumer brands, but a lot of coaches and consultants and personal trainers and therapists, mostly women-led businesses. And it was like I discovered this whole other part of my creativity that had been neglected for 2 years. Like I'd done all of this incredibly vulnerable, healing, creative work, and it was wonderful. And I sat down and started mapping out, customer journeys for people and started mapping out all of the testing strategies. And as you said in your intro, I am a testing and data nerd. I joke that my father must be rolling over in his grave because I was like, he was a database administrator and a systems architect. And he was like, your brain works a lot like mine. And I was like, no, like I'm going to be a creative. I'm going to be in fundraising and marketing. And then I now spend so much time developing testing and data segmentation strategies that I just assumed that from some like blues bar in the afterlife, he's looking down at me holding a beer and being like, I told you. That's what I imagine is happening. But when I was in the 2010s, I did, in addition to fundraising communications, I did a lot of grant writing, and I still do some of that. But one of the things that fills me up creatively with grant writing and with marketing strategy is that I get to do storytelling with data. And that is so fun for me to find what story is the data telling me about this program or about this. I work with a woman who does information systems consulting and in particular governance and security in the healthcare system. And she has all of this fascinating survey information on the implementation of AI in healthcare. And I get to find the stories in that to write blog posts and LinkedIn posts and develop that strategy for her. And that fills my creative well in a different way that is less vulnerable day to day. So it's not taking that same level of not just vulnerability, but it takes less of me and the essence of who I am to do that, but I still get to find those creative pockets to work through, even though it's, okay, so what's the story here in how hospitals are implementing AI and governments and what does that look like in different sized healthcare systems? I feel like if you told me 15 years ago that would be what filled my well creatively when I was, in my 20s and like fresh-eyed 23-year-old, trying to develop her fundraising career, I would have been like, you're insane. But I think back to how I started in fundraising communications. I was a kennel assistant at the Humane Society as my first big girl job. And then I was an adoption counselor. And I started working with the development team because they would come to me for programmatic sections of appeals and proposals because I could find the story and the data and write it for them because I was on the floor.
That is very impressive because if you, I'm pretty good at if I have interviews with my clients and we talk about their story to develop a brand. But if you, for example, with emails, if I look at my own data that I'm receiving from my email blasts, I would need someone like you to find the story in there because I have no idea.
Yeah. And I think every piece of data tells a story. And when we find those stories, and whether it's I'm talking to a client and explaining what their data is telling me, or I'm taking existing data and reports and, programmatic statistics and turning them into full-on grant proposals, blog posts, documents. Yeah, you get to, every piece of data tells a story, and there's a lot of fun in finding how you're going to tell that story. In a grant proposal, there are ways to say things that sound better than the other. In emails, there are ways to report on program successes that sound more impressive or more engaging. And that's so fun.
Let's talk a little bit about the email part, because I can relate to that. Because I never understood, or I do understand, but it's hard for me, for my own email blast, to incorporate A/B testing. So basically, you would take one headline in one email, send it to a certain group, and then another headline for the same email, and send it to a different group, right?
Yes. That's one of the things you can A/B test. You can A/B test just about anything. But subject lines are one of the most popular ones. So I always tell people, when you are A/B testing, you're only changing one thing. You're not testing, the size of your buttons in your email and also your email subject line and who the email says that it's from, Svenja versus, your company name, or you're testing one thing at a time. And oftentimes you have to repeat that testing a few times to see any kind of significant result.
How do you segment your contact list are you just like splitting it in half and see which one works better? Or do you have a strategy behind that as well?
Typically, I separate into 3 segments, depending on the size of your list. This is for people above 5,000 on their subscriber list. Below that, I would stick with just your engaged email list and your unengaged list, and just make sure that you're splitting each of those in half versus a direct split down the middle.
Okay.
So like when I was in higher education, I had lists that were 50 to 100,000 people. To split those, if I split them just in half, I'm not going to get a good mix of how people engage, how much they donate, how often they attend events. So I had a system where it was, how long ago did you give your last gift? What was the gift range? And how long ago did you attend an event? And your age. And we come.
Okay, so you can find all that information in your backend.
For university, you can.
Okay, yes.
So that's the very complicated side of A/B testing. For simpler A/B testing, I tell people within your email platform, whether it's MailChimp or MailerLite or Flowdesk or whatever, you should be able to find a place in your contact list that lets you segment your list out. Within that, most of them are going to have an easy way for you to identify your engaged audience, so who is frequently opening and clicking your emails, and your unengaged audience, who isn't doing that. Once you're above 5,000 subscribers, you can usually add a midpoint of people who sometimes open and sometimes click. So you're engaged, you're unengaged audiences. When you're A/B testing, you want to split each of those groups in half.
Okay.
So instead of saying send to everyone, you would say send to this group, and then you would just duplicate to the exact same email, send to the next segment, and then the third segment. And then to actually get your testing results, you just combine all of those numbers together into a total.
Okay, so but all 3, if you let's say like you just did, you segmented in 3 groups. So one group has a specific subject line. Let's just say we want to test that specific subject line, and then the other groups have different ones.
They all have the same one. It is the exact same across all 3 groups. So you would test 2 subject lines per group. And they are all the exact same subject lines.
I see, because it has A and, okay, A and B. Okay, so, because you split those in half, and then you have two different subject lines for each group. See, it's already breaking my brain.
So,
it's good, yes. No, I understand, yes.
yeah, so at the end, your report would have 6 lines of individual results of opens, clicks, click-through rates, all of that. And then at the bottom, you would total all of that up for your, you would total up all of your test A results and then all of your test B results. So your total, you're going to have 2 lines instead of the 6 at the bottom. And that's where you get the actual statistical significance.
Okay, and then from there you can see which subject line worked better. Like, let's make it easy. One subject line had emojis and the other one didn't.
That was going to be my suggestion. That's one of the things I tell people to start with if they're testing.
Yeah. What do you think about emojis in general?
I tend to actually like them.
Oh, really?
I think it is very dependent on your industry. So, for instance, with my healthcare CIO consultant, I'm not using emojis for subject lines.
Makes sense.
But for an environmental nonprofit that I run the marketing for, emojis, leaves, flowers, that kind of stuff do really well.
Okay.
So I advise everyone to test it because I find it so dependent on your niche and your audience. It's not the use emojis or don't isn't a one size fits all thing, despite what I see some of the summaries and that kind of thing when you Google it say. I find it's very specific.
Yeah. I always, like, because of AI and ChatGPT, and because ChatGPT uses a lot of emojis. And so I tend to not use emojis at all.
Yeah.
Hate it in social posts.
Yes.
But I do agree they might have a purpose sometimes.
They do. I use them sparingly in social posts.
Yeah.
Typically, it's going to be if somebody is posting a podcast clip, I'll put the headphones and then listen wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah. That makes sense, yes.
But I know what you're talking about, where it's like the emoji check mark and then the next bullet point is the emoji check mark. Yeah. I know what you're saying. And
Yeah.
I think that's something interesting for us to talk about too, as part of the journey of creatives in marketing, is the effect that ChatGPT and Claude are having on how we now have to be even more creative about what we write.
Yeah. We had quick different topic, but I'm also coaching track and field, and we have our communications director, and she wrote beautiful emails. But she is using emojis as well. So one day I'm like, oh, did you use ChatGPT for that email? She's like, oh, no. She was totally offended because she said, no, I do write all my emails, no ChatGPT. Yeah. But because of the use of the emojis, I just assumed that, and M dashes, of course. I just assumed that was the case, you know? I mean, the email sounded really good, but
I'm so sad about M dashes being a tell, because I love a well-placed M dash. You will find them in my books. You will find them in grant proposals that I wrote pre-2024. Love an M dash so much. I'm so sad that they're an AI tell now.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. I told Claude, because he put it everywhere. Everywhere. Like every time I had him write something, M dash everywhere. And I'm like, God, come on, just, stop using the M dash. This is terrible. I would never, like, who talks like this? So anyway, so that was my I have lots of rants with Claude. Yes. Before it was ChatGPT, now it's Claude. Same discussions, but it's okay. But no, that's very interesting with the emails, and also the data. And like I said in the in the intro, I mentioned the $4,000 return, out of the $300 ad spend. I mean, ads are different than emails, but we talked about that as well during our pre-call.
Yes.
You want to? Yeah.
So I take an approach with digital ads called turbo A/B testing. So with my clients, I am testing a new headline or a new call to action button or a new graphic every 5 to 7 days. Most of my clients are on the lower side of ad spend. I mean, nonprofits, we are talking, in the $1,000 or less per month spend. And I find that turbo A/B testing gets me the most results and the most information for the least spend for my clients. And
okay, so just so that everybody understands, what is turbo A/B testing?
That is a system where every 5 to 7 days I am testing something new. So essentially we start with, 2 ads that are going to be tested against each other. The winner becomes the control for the next week, and we test a new thing. And then the winner becomes the control for the next 5 to 7 days, and we test a new thing.
Okay.
And because of that, I find that I'm able to get a lot of audience data for my clients. And it's very effective for, I find, event registrations and lead magnets. So things that are free or are at a lower price point. That kind of spend isn't going to give you a return on investment if you are selling a $5,000 course. But if you're selling a $35 nonprofit event ticket, yeah, you're going to get people clicking through. And one of the things that we uncovered, this was for a garden tour for the environmental nonprofit that I mentioned earlier. And they had focused very specifically on the city that they're in, which is a suburb of Atlanta. And I was like, the data is saying that people will drive for these gardens. Like, let's expand it to the full metro area. We'll spend more money within 10 miles of your location, but let's expand the audience. And they had, it was the most attended garden tour they've ever had. And this was after 4 years of declining sales.
Oh, wow. Okay.
From the ads alone, they had I'm going to do very rough math, 160-ish% return on increase year over year in pre-sales for their tickets. So instead of people walking up and buying day of, people that were buying online. And we were able to track that through the ads with attribution tracking and metapixel and all of those fun things that us marketers add in to track behavior. As someone who likes her privacy, I sometimes look at the amount of tracking I do of other people's behavior and go, well, this is some cognitive dissonance that you have to deal with.
True. That is something that I really have to dig a little deeper for. For my own business, it doesn't really make sense for to send out ads. It doesn't really make sense. However, for others, it makes a lot of sense. And when you're testing two different ads, again, you're just changing one thing.
Yes.
It could be the button size, could be a different headline for the same.
Yep. Yep. So, for instance, for an author, I might test the same image, which is going to be their book cover, the same headline, which is, free cozy romance available in Kindle Unlimited. But we'll test the description. One will be some highlights of their best reviews, and one will be an excerpt from the book.
Oh, okay.
So we might test that. I might test learn more versus register for an event, for the call to action button that goes on the meta ads. I do specialize in meta ads because I find that they give the most results for the least amount of money. LinkedIn and Google are great tools, but they do cost more. So
yeah, that's interesting. I really need to. I just started incorporating those UTM tags to different blog posts and the podcast.
Good, you should be.
Post, yes, but for some reason I haven't really figured out. I also didn't spend a lot of time, but I haven't figured out yet how to analyze or how to tell the story from my Google Analytics dashboard, because I and it's probably easy to find, but I haven't spent the time yet to really look into it. But like on my Google, like if someone also wants to do that on their own. Where in Google can I then see the specific ad or blog post or whatever I tagged with this UTM tag?
So if you are in, I'm gonna say WordPress, because a lot of people I know have.
Yeah.
You have to have Google Analytics turned on your site. You go into your dashboard, and then it should, under your dashboard, have a breakdown of the tags. If it doesn't, then you might need to go into, I'm blanking on the name of it, but there's a place that you can export data, and it should export a list of your.
Okay. So then I totally went about it the wrong way, because I went to the Google Analytics page, not on the WordPress page.
Do it through your website.
Oh, okay. Oh. Yeah, that is turned on. I always turn it on.
Yeah. especially for your blog posts, because those go through your website. You should be able to go into the Google Analytics dashboard within WordPress, and that should give you much more specific information to what you're looking for.
Okay. Because I went on Google. I really had issues finding it. So, yeah. Now, no, that's a really good tip. So because I'm pretty sure that there's lots of listeners who are going through the same transformation, similar to what you're going through. And what's one or two tips that you can give them?
Getting it down to one or two is hard.
Three is okay too.
I would say, first off, understanding that you don't just have to be passionate about creative pursuits or pursuits that, are altruistic. I had a mentor a long time ago when I made a list she had me make a list of all of these things I was passionate about. And she was like, so fundraising communications isn't on here, but the way that you talk about it makes me think that you're passionate about it. And I had never thought that I could be passionate about something that felt self-serving. And so that would be my first tip, is that your passion doesn't just have to be a creative or altruistic pursuit. You can be passionate about data and testing, like we've been talking about, or you can be passionate about, I have friends who are passionate about, tech stacks for businesses and making those work. And if you find that you are passionate about one of those things, then you probably have the drive to make that business happen. The other thing that I would say is it is okay for your identity to shift around as you go through these transitions. In the past 3 years, my identity has become wife, stepmother, orphan, creative, business owner. And it looks very different than who I was before I started out on the entrepreneurship journey. And it's okay to grieve that person that you were before. It's okay to be sad that, for me, 29-year-old Caroline, who was at 6 a.m. spin class and, in the office at 7:30 a.m., really, really driving for success and didn't really have to worry about anybody but herself. It's okay for me to grieve that she's not me anymore.
Yeah.
It's okay for me to grieve that author wasn't the ultimate career path for me.
Yeah.
And by grieving those pieces of myself, it's helped me accept the new identity, which has helped me move forward with confidence about my marketing agency and my work and defining who I work with. So yeah, those would be my two biggest things. Is that it's okay to be passionate about things that are self-serving, and it's also okay to grieve who you were before this idea came along or this life transition happened. And when you do those things, I find that the creativity comes in a way that you didn't expect.
Yeah. And it's okay to start with something and then ending with something else. Like it's not a failure.
Yep.
It's a process that you have to work through in order to get where you're meant to go.
Yes. Yeah. The process is, for me, especially since I started Southern Grit Digital in earnest versus as a side project, the process has been the fun part. Refining what I'm doing with my clients, refining who I'm working with, getting to see the places that spark the creative joy and the feeling of satisfaction that maybe didn't when I was in corporate. I wrote marketing plans all day at the university, and it got to the point where it didn't bring me joy because it was frankly the same marketing plan over and over again. They bring me joy again because I get to do them across such a wide variety of business industries and niches, and that's a lot of fun. So I think when you embrace the process, you get to find the fun in the places that you didn't expect.
Yep, I agree. Absolutely agree. So if someone would like to get in contact with you, where can they find you?
So I can be found on my website, which is www.southerngritdigital.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Southern Grit Digital. And on LinkedIn, I go by Caroline Weeks, which is my married name. So if you want to find me on LinkedIn, you can find me as Caroline Weeks. But my husband didn't build a 15-year marketing career, so use Caroline Benefield here.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's already been 44 minutes. And I'm sad that we have to, but maybe we can, have another conversation at one point and maybe go a little bit deeper. But it was super fun to have you on the show. And I think your story is very inspiring and can inspire a lot of other businesses or entrepreneurs who are thinking about getting started or maybe are going through a hard time. I think it's very inspiring. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to This Might Get Creative, a Behind the Brand podcast by Lion Creatives. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show and share it with someone who loves discovering local businesses and creative entrepreneurs. You can learn more about my work at lioncreatives.com or find me on Instagram, lion.creatives, and LinkedIn at Lion Creatives. Until next time, keep showing up, keep creating, and keep getting seen.